Hey, everybody, and welcome to Rock Your Reinvention, the show that gives you all the tips and tools you need to reinvent your own life by interviewing amazing women who have already done the damn thing. And when you meet our guest today, oh my gosh, I've been so pumped for this interview for weeks. Sherry Shamrock, welcome to the show.
I'm so pumped too. This is going to be the best.
The best. Okay, first of all, like our branding is so similar because you got the black and the pink going on, and I just love that you have your own merch and you're wearing it. You are a goddess.
I do my best.
Yeah, see, this is the kind of confidence we want everyone here at Successful Working Women Rocking Reinvention to have, where you're just like, yeah, I know. Thank you. Love it.
I've looked forward to this. Obviously, I've read your book. Y'all, if you haven't read her book, you need to get on it. And I'm telling you, NOW, it's the best. She had me at the prologue. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you.
And
just in case anyone hasn't seen it yet, go get it.
Yes.
Amazon.
The Ins and Outs of Your Vagina, a penetrating memoir.
It is
fascinating. It is. I'm waiting for, let's see, who's going to play you, who's going to play V. Because V has all kind of attitude, and if you don't know who V is, I think you do know. Oh God, I need to interview you about your book.
I was like, this show is about you, not me. But thank you, because it's one thing to tell people that your stuff is great, and but for somebody else to say that your stuff is great is everything. And I'm going to be saying how great all your stuff is in a minute anyway. So thank you.
Yeah. I laughed, I cried, I was high-fiving. I was like, yeah, and I was like, oh Lord. That was me the whole time.
I love it. That's great. That's exactly what I was going for. So I felt like you got me.
Yeah. It was brilliant. Thank you for being so open. And that's one of the things that we as women have to do. We have to not be afraid to show the vulnerability and the truth. And but then, because that makes us stronger, and you'll see it has strengthened me in ways that I never knew I had in me.
Oh, I love it. I can't wait to get into this. All right. So before we keep going, just give us a little introduction. Who is Sherry Shamrock? What do you do? Where do you live? Just give us the lay of the land.
I am, my last name is not even Shamrock. Shamrock was my breakdancing name in the 80s. So I used to do this move called the Shamrock, and I find 4-leaf clovers, so it just kind of stuck. And so when I started set up my social media, I was like Sherry. Well, in college, nobody knew my name was Sherry, so Shamrock. My maiden name's Christian. I didn't get married till I was almost 40, so Leetham. Sherry Shamrock. That's too long. I'm just gonna put Sherry Shamrock, and if you find me, great. Yeah. And it's literally become my brand name. But I grew up in Tennessee, went to college at Tennessee, Chad, was a football trainer, and then I became a cheerleader. Who knew years later this is going to happen? I was too poor to pay for cheerleading in high school, and I decided to try it in college. I'd never cheered a day in my life. And I made the JV squad in college, but I couldn't afford camp, so I gave it up to another person. I worked 3 summers in a pencil factory, to save money for school. And I just kept putting a little aside. And so I'm jumping on the sidelines, one of the football players. He goes, "What do you think? You are a cheerleader?" I'm like, "You think I can't do it?" And so I tried out again. And the director was like, "So if you make it again, do you think you can afford camp?" I'm like, "Yes, ma'am. I've been working 3 summers in a pencil factory." Oh. And so I made it again. And that's kind of how my life got in the cheerleading world. And it had its roller coasters. She was an interesting person because she decided who she wanted on the squad. That's really what it came down to. And we realize that now. And I made the JV again, and I was the only one. I was one of maybe 3 people that tried out that year who tumbled.
Wow.
And the other girl made JV. I was even asked by the person I tried out with, "Are you going to tumble?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Don't tumble." I'm like, "I'm going to tumble." "Are you going to do your toe touch?" She's like, "Yeah." She said, "Don't do them." Well, I did them. She made varsity. I made JV, but it was a life lesson. It's just how the world works.
Sure.
So the next year I was a clinic instructor, and the director wanted me to try out again. I was like, "No, I had changed my major twice. I need to focus on graduating." And she reached over and she did something to me, Karen, that, at the time, I knew it made me feel bad, but I couldn't pinpoint it. And this is the director of cheerleading, because I went to her office. She said, they're saying that you're not going to try out. I was like, yeah, I really need to focus on graduating. She reached us, I think you make a great varsity cheerleader. And I was like, yeah, I just got to focus on graduating. And she reaches over and she pats my hand. She goes, because Faye, she served her time. And Faye was one of the Black varsity cheerleaders. And so I realized as I left there, the feeling was in my belly,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so I didn't even tell my girlfriend for several years. I didn't tell her that. And then one day we were just chatting. I said, you know what happened? And I told her. She's like, yeah, she was hot. But it was a life lesson. A few years later,
Sure.
I was a social worker. I ended up deciding to go to law school. And I applied to like 9 schools, got rejection. I'm like, I wasn't smart. And then one day I got one that said, we can't accept you at this time because your application's incomplete. So I called them and they said, we didn't receive one of your letters of recommendation. And she was my reference and she didn't send a letter of recommendation. So the only school I hadn't heard from was Vandy. And so I called Vanderbilt Law School in Nashville, Tennessee. I called them and they said, we have a minority scholarship that we want to give to you. All we need is the letter. And so I'm calling her, Miss Tucker, please. I would drive from Chattanooga to Nashville myself.
Right.
And waiting. Never happens. And this is snail mail time, right? So I'm calling the school and they're like, all we need is this letter. I'm like, it's too late. The deadline was then. She's like, Sherry, you're going to make a great attorney because you're arguing with me. Because I'm saying all we need is the letter. And we have a minority scholarship to give out. So she never wrote it. And now I look back like, was that like her vengeance to me? I don't know. I don't want to think about it because I know the purpose of it now. And when I was told in first grade, second grade, junior high, high school that I wasn't smart. And that was God's way of letting me know, you are smart. You had a minority scholarship to Vanderbilt Law School. That's not why I need you.
Yeah.
And so, everybody serves a purpose in your life, and you can use them as those stepping stones, or you can say, oh, I can't believe she did that to me. I went to try out for I went to my college homecoming that year after I didn't get into law school, and I saw her, and she comes up to me and she goes, Sham, about that letter, they go by so many things. And I was like, Miss Tucker, do you know what I do for a living right now? Well, I specialize in child sex abuse. I was a counselor. I wanted to go and specialize in child welfare rights because no one's there to protect the kids, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, I said, but you know what? I guess that's not my purpose. I got to go stretch. I gave her a hug. I said, I love you. I got to go stretch. And I walked away, and all the other cheerleaders like, I can't believe you did that. I was like, no, because if I had said what I could have said, she would have felt justified. And I wasn't going to do that. I just, off the shoulders. But
good for you. Because I think a lot of people would have a hard time taking the higher road and letting that person realize, like, you don't actually hold that much power over me. You might think you do,
girl,
but you don't.
The girls on my squad, I love them because they were like, I wore red fingernail polish. Retaliation. I wore earrings because we couldn't wear earrings. You couldn't wear, polish. And they're like, I got my kinky perm. Because she used to make them wear hot rollers and like all my Caucasian persuasion squad. They have to wear and have these big bouffants, right? She goes, I want y'all to look like wholesome cheerleaders and not a bunch of whores. She used to say that. So she would make them, and this is the 80s, so the kinky perms were in, and she would make them wear those sponge hot rollers. It was hilarious.
Oh
the pictures are.
So what you're saying is we should send her a copy of my book.
Well, rest in peace. She passed away in like I think 2002, around that time. So God rest her soul. But I have something. When you're going to ask me about something later, I think, and it all come full circle.
Okay, cool. So
I live in Austin.
We all have this moment usually in our lives where we have this like spark of inspiration, or we realize it's time for a reinvention, like something needs to change, or we need to follow a dream. So what was that moment for you where you're like, okay, I need to reinvent my career a little bit and start this business?
So, as women, we have a way of doing this. Oftentimes men can't. My first one was leaving social working. And I got involved in fitness. It kind of fell into my lap, to be honest with you. I was dislocating my shoulder in my sleep from stress and scratching my hair out.
Oh
from
my gosh.
because investigating child sex abuse. I was stressed,
Oh,
and so I knew exercise made me feel good. So I thought I want to help people feel good, and I fell into a corner of working in the gym, never thinking I could have a career out of it. And I moved to Atlanta, and that's where I went from Tennessee to Atlanta. From Atlanta, I went to Utah, and I helped open franchise of Gold's Gyms. But when I was in Atlanta, I worked for the company that launched Step Aerobics. So I was just in sales, and I worked my way up to VP of Sales and Operations. And we had our ladies division, so I ran the ladies division. It was a 40,000 square foot all ladies gym. We had 6 co-ed locations. It was crazy. I had never taught group fitness, or as we call it, aerobics. But the founder of Step actually taught us. We had to go through 4 weeks of sales and marketing training as a sales rep. And the first week was exercise science, physiology, kinesiology. I couldn't even say physiology. I was used to in psychology. I was like physicology, physicology. Yeah. So when I realized it was going to be my chosen career, I decided to become a trainer so I could have the credentials to back my name up. So I've been a certified personal trainer since 1996. And then I moved into corporate wellness, and I managed corporate health clubs in Atlanta. I grand opened the CNN Health Club.
wow.
Worked at the world headquarters for UPS. They have a health club. I worked there. Bank of America, all those in Atlanta. And then I had opportunity to go to Utah to help open and grow a franchise of Gold's Gym. So I moved there. Ironically, met my husband in Utah. Who knew?
Yeah,
God's
right.
sense of humor.
Yep.
And so then we moved here. I was like, Jesus, if you get me out of cold weather, I swear I'll never complain about the heat. Just so you know, yesterday we had a heat index of 117. I didn't complain because I made a promise, but it's like super hot here right now. So I had to position everything so I could have good lighting because we've had all the blinds shut.
Oh, I bet.
So,
oh my goodness,
yeah.
that is amazing. Fitness sounds like such a fun career, like something that just would be so enjoyable every day. But I'm sure that it has its like not fun parts.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Everybody loves to work out afterwards. It makes you feel so great, but it is literally the hardest thing to start. And I try to tell people, even being in the industry, it's one of those things that's really hard, even for us. We're in the gym all day. So the last thing you want to do when you're at work, you don't want to be at work. So I used to join other gyms so I could go somewhere and be a member. I would say the hardest thing about being a trainer is when people rely on you for their 170 hours a week and you're only with them for 2 hours.
Right.
It's like what, 174 hours, 172 hours in a week. And yeah. And so you have to say, so what are you doing those other 170 plus hours,
I see that in coaching all the time. Yep.
Yeah.
1 hour isn't going to solve your life. I can give you the guidance and the tips and the tools, but if you don't put it into practice, that's on you.
Yep. So that would probably be my only downside, because I've been in it for 30 years, kind of off and on. When I came up with the idea of PoundPoms, I was working for Gold's Gym International here in Austin. And I thought, I don't want them to take my intellectual property. So I resigned. But I hadn't signed anything. So but I was kind of looking at leaving there anyway. And so I had to pay for a patent. So I ended up working 4 years for the BlackBerry smartphone. So when you said BlackBerry then, you actually meant the phone, not a fruit. Now you say BlackBerry and everybody thinks a fruit. I met a kid the other day who never heard of BlackBerry. And I was like, oh God, I've hit that mark. I've met that kid. So, there's all of this, there's a lot of that.
Well, I think that's so encouraging because I think so many people think that they're just supposed to pick a career and then you're going to do it for your entire life, right? And that there aren't going to be some ups and downs and there aren't going to be some pivots and some steps and some jumps and some back steps. I mean, that's how my career has been too. So I think it's just nice to hear from other people that, hey, they're going through it too. And now you're actually a fitness coordinator also for Round Rock, which is a suburb of Austin, Texas. And you run your own business with PoundPoms. So how do you balance those?
Well, when I worked for BlackBerry, I realized I wasn't dedicating time to the PoundPoms. And I thought I need to have a separate career and then my business, right? And then I realized later, no, I need to stay in the industry that I love. And I'm going to tell you the story. It might break me. So I'm just going to tell you. And this is why I really love the job I have with the city of Round Rock. okay, in 2009, I was launching PoundPoms. Okay.
Yep.
And I was going to go to 7 fitness shows throughout that whole year. And it was February and I'm practicing and I'm like, so exhausted. I'm like, whew. And I'm never tired. Okay.
Right.
But I had a
Yeah.
cold. So I'm like, okay, I got to knock this cold out. It was February the 11th and I had to go to Philly February 22nd for this fitness show. And I'm like, I got to knock this cold out. So I go down the street, just to like a little ready clinic and checking in and everything. And I was like, so yeah, you have, some kind of cold, blah, blah, blah. I can't remember what it was. And I was like, but before we give you medication, do you think maybe you're pregnant? I'm like, no. And it's like, why did you say it like that? And I was like, well, 5 months ago, I was at the doctor's office. She says you have severe fibroids and you need to have a hysterectomy. And then, so that's why I know. And she told me, get about 6 months, talking over my husband because we didn't have any children. And she said, well, let's just run it in case. I'm like, okay. And I'm sitting in this room and you can hear that clock ticking,
Yes.
the white paper, the clock ticking. And I remember thinking, in the tick of a clock, your whole life can change. And she comes back in and she goes, you're pregnant. I was like, oh, how cool is that?
Right.
And I just remember, how cool is that? And so it made sense, So as I'm walking out, my mom just happened to call in that second. So I answered. I was like, Mama, you'll never guess what? And I tell her, and I have 3 older sisters and a younger brother, and they all had children. And she was like, oh my God, where is it? Pick up the phone, yelling at my dad. And so I'm like, yeah, but it may be kind of high risk. And my dad's like, nope, you got strong genes. Your sister, my cousin Mary Frances gave birth to a baby in the cotton field, hashed it off with a hatchet and went back to work. You got strong genes. You got strong genes. I'm like, my cousin who did what? What are you talking about? And so anyway, that was February the 11th. And I remember them saying, you don't think you're pregnant? I'm like, no, why? Where's the last menstrual cycle? That question every woman hates to try to answer. I was like, December 24th. They're like, So yeah, ended up pregnant. And so March the 25th, I believe it was, I had to go into an ultrasound because they wanted to see the fibroids.
Sure.
So that's like big 40-inch monitor, And I'm always, and my husband's like, do I need to go? I'm like, yeah, but we're going to see the baby on a big 40-inch monitor. And he was like, I said, but they really want to check the fibroids. It's like, I was like, so, no, you don't have to go. And so I'm there and girls, doing what they do. She's like, oh, you're 11 weeks and 6 days. And I'm like, yep. I'm like, how do they know that? How do they not? This is just a new place I'm going. They don't know me. And so she said, you got plans for the weekend? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to California. I invented weighted cheerleading and pom-poms. I, take this workout. And I'm just talking. And she was like, oh, wow. And we're going back and forth. And all of a sudden she goes, oh, no. We just lost a heartbeat. Just like that.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember just sitting there. So when I read your book,
Oh yeah.
I remember just sitting there and she says, hold on, let me go get the doctor. I think had we not been talking, she wouldn't have said it out loud. But it was just that we were talking and it just came out. Yeah. So she goes and gets him. He comes in and he like scrolls around, looks, well, there's the fibroid. Oh, well, sometimes these things happen. I'm going to call your OBGYN. She wants you to come over. And he leaves. And the girl's standing at the, by my feet at the foot. And she's looking at me and she's like, are you okay? Are you okay? Karen, my heart broke for her. And I just remember reaching out and grabbing her hands. And I'm like, I'm going to be okay. I have a strong spiritual foundation. I'm okay. Are you okay?
Yeah.
And she just ran out of the room.
Oh.
And so I waited for the asshole to come in. And he was like, yeah, she's got 2 deliveries, but she said for you to come on over there, you may have to wait a while. And then he gives me these pamphlets and he tosses them right by my leg, just throws them on the table I'm on. And he goes, here's some stuff you can read about it. And then I remember turning and looking at him. And he goes, oh, you can get dressed. And I just felt so dirty. I can't even tell you how. I don't have to describe women. You guys know.
Yeah.
I felt cheap. I mean, I felt like he was tossing the money on the bed,
Yeah.
And so I remember I had my glasses on that day, and without my contacts or glasses, girl, I can't see the E on the eye chart.
Right.
And so I remember I pulled them up so the world is invisible to me, and I walk out, and there were like 3 ladies, like nurses, standing right there, and they were watching me, and I had to walk down this long hallway. Of course, it's a long hallway, and I was thinking, okay, don't break, because. Don't break. So I'm walking, and I swear to you, Karen, I heard my dad. It was like he was walking me down the aisle, and he
Mhm.
was going, "You got strong genes. You got strong genes." And that voice in my head got me to my car. And then I was like, "Oh, and I don't break." So I get
Yeah.
to my OBGY and I go in, and they say, "So why are you here today? We don't have an appointment for you." And I remember looking at her and going, "They lost a heartbeat." And then I just
Yeah.
broke right there. And
Yeah.
she came around, and she had trouble getting pregnant. She always wore a pin of her son. And she took me to a bathroom I didn't even know existed. And I waited for 2 hours. You know, every pregnant woman you can imagine is around
Oh,
me.
the
And,
worst feeling.
you know, but I remember thinking, who am I that it can't happen to?
Yeah.
So I never
I
had
know.
that, oh God, why me? I never had that. And
Mhm.
I'm thankful for that. And so I get back to in the back, and she was like, well, he sent everything over. What we need to do tomorrow is probably have a DNC, or we could do it Friday. So, well, I have to go to San Francisco Friday. I've got this fitness convention I needed. And then she was like, okay. And I said, she said, well, it just happened. So typically it takes about 2 weeks for your body to recognize, but it flushes out. But if
Sure.
anything happens like that, do you know anybody in San Francisco? And I was like, no. She said, because there'll be a lot of blood. So I came home. I remember getting in the car going, I got to call somebody to get me home. And I was
Yeah.
naming people, and I wouldn't call my husband. And I called my sister, and she's a widower. And she's the sister I shared the bed with, or the college with. And I call her, and I'm
Yeah.
like, Tina. And she's like, Sherry, I can't understand anything you're saying. You need to stop. I can't understand. I mean, you're talking about you want to get sober quick, get
Oh,
a
yeah.
sister. But it's what I needed. And she got me home. And then I waited
Mhm.
until my husband came home. And he comes upstairs. He's like, oh, are you sick? You have a morning sickness. And I was like, they lost a heartbeat. And he just grabbed me, and he was like, oh my God, I was looking so forward to it. He had been up the night before looking at
Mm.
baby names. Oh,
Mm.
I was sick. I was sick. I couldn't even go down the hallway because that was where we're gonna have the nursery. So I would go
Right.
to my nursery, which was the garage, and I would work with my babies.
Yeah.
So literally, my PoundPoms, something that I conceived in my head, I could hold in my hand. It's the only thing I've got that's like that. And so when I tell you blood, sweat,
Mm.
and tears. So I had to have 3 surgeries because of the fibroids. They were so enormous. So I had 3 surgeries in 4 months, and then I slipped a disc in my back and couldn't walk. So for anybody that's out there who thinks that it's easy to launch a business, it's easy to, oh, it's just nothing. I hate when
Right.
people say to me, because this was 2009. I hate when people say, you've been working on this for this long. You don't know the journey people have taken to get to where they
Yes.
are. You know, I had to recondition myself to walk because my
Right.
back, I couldn't even get out of bed. Um, and so then Steve Harvey came. So
Right. That is so cool. Like, I mean, to hear that story, because I didn't even know all of these details, right? To know that you could not walk, you had to retrain yourself to walk. And now you are like fitness instructor, you're on Steve Harvey's Thunderdome. Like, what was that like?
he was so funny.
Oh, I
First of all,
bet.
people have asked me, they're
Yeah.
like, so was it scripted? It was not. We never met him. He didn't want to meet us beforehand because he wanted to be straight up. And so I got the opportunity to launch my product on national TV. I was told by someone, the people who started Step Aerobics, they gave me advice. They said, don't go doing this in mom and pops and get national attention that you're the creator. And they gave me that opportunity. I won $10,000 to fund my business. And the way the show operated was you had to pitch your business to another entrepreneur, and the
Yes.
audience had to vote on who they thought would get funded. So they put me up against a football player. So the cheerleader versus the football player. And he had a great product. He made it to the NFL, but had an injury that kicked him out. And he had like a few bucks to his name. He said, man, I got to find a way to get rich in the struggle. And he thought grits, that was the acronym. So he made hats and t-shirts. So whatever's in your heart, this is a reminder. When it's on your
Sure.
head, it's the think positive. So he had a great product. And we didn't, and he and I had been hanging out with some other people all week. So we became really good friends. So all of a sudden we're on stage together. And he's like, what? Because I was like baseball cap, bun, glasses,
Yeah.
totally nerd out. And he was like, Sherry comes out with a cheerleader outfit. And it was just funny. So I felt comfortable being on stage with him, because what they
Yeah.
don't air is at one point they say, okay, Sherry, now that you know what Kirsten does, and Kirsten, now you know what Sherry does, tell the audience why you should win and he should lose. Go. And you're like, oh, so it's like you're playing a Dirty Dozens, right? And
Right.
so it's because it was him, I could say the stuff that I wanted to say, just kind of jive around. But I also, I was like, he may be big. Well, he is big. And he may be bad, but he's definitely his own boss. But we will take care of, we must take care of, we will take care of you and your mamas too. Right. And so,
Oh,
but I talked about PoundPoms for recovery because it's a cancer exercise program that I do for women who are suffering from lymphedema. They hold the PoundPoms and, use those as a fun exercise tool. But speaking of PoundPoms,
we gotta look at these. I've been holding this on my lap the whole time. I'm like just starting to like tear at the corner. I'm like, I can't wait to open these. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, they're so beautiful.
I can't wait either.
Ah! Look at these, you guys. So I used to cheer, and it's been a long time, and I don't have any poms, and I'm so excited. Hold on, I gotta get the other one out. I was like, if they came back black and pink, I wouldn't be mad. And don't you know, it matches my book perfectly. Yay.
Yeah, and I made them with a little sparkly glitter in them.
They're so pretty. I mean, I love them. Thank you. Yo, you need to go order a pair of PoundPoms because most of you know that I had shoulder surgery, so I'm not supposed to lift much. I can only do like a pound at a time. This is so cool. So you can like work out and feel amazing at the same time.
Yeah.
I feel the spirit.
Well, so you have to let me know another time about your shoulder, because as a trainer, my brain's like, oh, she's had a shoulder surgery. When you tell her, maybe I should tell her this. I'll show her this. She can do this. So yeah, I came up with PoundPoms because I recognize that cheer motions are identical to weight training movements. I was supposed to go back to my college homecoming. I hadn't been back in years. I'm like, I'm not going to drive all the way to Tennessee from Texas. And it was that year that all the people my age went back. And I'm like so upset that I didn't go back. I'm telling my neighbor about it. And I was like, of course, you'd be laughing at me. She's like, why? I said, because I'd come back like walking like Frankenstein. I'd be so sore. And I remember rubbing my tricep, right? And just that soreness used to get. And I immediately did, a right arm punch. And I realized if I had a dumbbell, that's a tricep extension. I went, duh. Well, what else is identical? So I did touchdown. That's an overhead press. So I recognized that cheer motions are weight training movements. Lunges also, right? The lunges in cheer and chant. And if you're doing like a tabletop to low V, that's like a rope press down, tricep press down. So I thought I should create a new dance fitness class. I call it cheer camp because the cheer camp, they make you do those routines over and over and over again, just like for your body sculpting. I said, but what could really make it fun? Anybody could do a cheer workout. And all of a sudden I saw what's now my logo. And I saw a girl doing a dumbbell curl, shaking a pom-pom. I was thinking about having my card up here. And that literally became my logo.
Yeah. I think that's so cool. And it just goes to show you can get inspiration from anywhere, right? And like we are always seeing these signs of where God wants to direct us in our life. And I just love that you were bold enough to be like, yeah, this is this, and connect the dots and follow through.
Well, when I was on Steve Harvey's Thunderdome, the full circle moment came when I had to get out there and pitch for 90 seconds. And I was like, as a former collegiate cheerleader, so here I am on national TV, been able to say as a former collegiate cheerleader. So had the lady not put me on JV, because she had to control to do everything, I would not have been able to be on national TV saying as a former collegiate cheerleader. And it was going back to my homecomings that was the spark and the inspiration for the idea. And it kicks my butt. It is a workout, y'all.
Oh, I can't wait to try it. I'm going to post pictures. We might have to start a little something in the Facebook group too. Like we'll do like weekly workouts. There we go.
Yeah. If you go to my TikTok, I have different it's more at the bottom of the TikTok. I have little workouts you can do, like 1-minute workouts. Yeah. That you can do with the PoundPoms. Even like some ab work that I have you do, like tabletop, extension and just leaning back and hey, I'm on the screen. But just a variety of different little movements you can do. Touchdown, you lean all the way back, touchdown, you do broken T. You can see a lot of different little ab workouts on there. That's a lot of fun.
That's so cool. And I just love it because they are so light and easy. You can just keep them on your desk and like reach over and do like a quick thing between conference calls and then set them back down and get back to business. Like it's perfect.
Yeah.
And
they are deceptively heavy.
Right.
I'm going to
like
say,
when
you've been forewarned.
Yeah.
They're like,
sure.
they aren't tough.
Yeah.
And I used to do a pivot turn. No, pivot turn. And the minute I turn it back to the back, I'm like, pivot turn. Pivot turn. Let's go. Girl. And you do about
Exactly.
120 lunges in the workout that you get when you
Ooh.
order it. And you want to talk about your butt and your legs. So it's designed to target, tighten, and tone a woman's troubling 4 T's. Don't tell me tush, thighs, and tries. And it will hit every single component. I started saying I thought I need to trademark that. So I own the trademark, registered trademark 4T zone. And it's tummy, tush, thighs, and tries. Because that's, for years, that's what women have always told me. So you're holding them, you're doing this, you're getting that tummy in, that tush, thighs, and tries. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that is amazing. Okay, where can everyone go to get their own pair of amazing PoundPoms?
You go to PoundPoms.com. It's really that simple. Even if you spell it wrong, I think I have it Poms Pounds. I think I have it Pound. You can do SherryShamrock.com. You can say do it weighted, because that's kind of my tag. Yeah, if you go hashtag do it weighted online, I bet I'm going to pop up somewhere. Yeah, so I came up with so many tags, and you never know what you're going to use. And I remember it's time to start cheering for fitness. Cheering, it's like life is more than just standing on the sidelines. But when it comes down to it, cheerleaders understand that. Most people look at a cheerleader and are like, but life is like cheerleading. It's more than just standing on the sidelines. And you asked me about a quote. There's 2 quotes that always come to mind. One is, do not ask God to guide your footsteps if you're not willing to move your feet. We ask God, show me, but you're waiting for him to shove. He's going. You just got to follow the path. And the other one is, and I love this one, aim at the sun and you might not reach it, but your arrow will fly far higher than had you aimed at an object level with yourself.
Yeah. That is so good. That is solid advice and wisdom from Sherry Shamrock today. And you might have just frozen, but hopefully, I know there were some thunderstorms in Texas, so hopefully she'll be back in a second, because I do want to make sure we give her the last word. We'll give it 1 second. This is live, y'all. That's what happens sometimes. In the meantime, while we wait for her, I'll work out with my PoundPoms. These things are seriously so cool. And they're the perfect colors to match my book. I mean, look at that. Isn't that just perfect? Oh, so cool. Sherry, I don't know what happened. I'm still on the internet. I didn't get kicked off. I don't know what happened. Well, check it out. Sherry Shamrock. She's on LinkedIn. PoundPoms on Instagram. So connect with her. She is absolutely amazing. I mean, you saw what a bright light she is. So check her out. And thank you for being here on Rock Your Reinvention. For those of you watching on YouTube, if you're not a member of my Facebook group, come check it out. Successful Working Women Rocking Reinvention. You'll get access to all kinds of content and exclusive things that you won't see on any of my other social media channels. And no matter what you do, go rock your reinvention. Have a great day, everybody.